Explain how you go from the Korengal Valley in eastern Afghanistan to whitewater rafting on the Colorado. Just talk us through that transition a little bit, and then talk a little bit about the impact that Outward Bound has had on your life.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I got home from the Korengal, I was the only guy out of my platoon that got out of the military immediately. I was actually stop lost, which means my ETS, my end of service date, was actually February of 2008. But since I was in the Korengal Valley, they're like, hey, you're going to serve out this deployment, and then we'll get rid of you at the end. So I got out after I got back in December of 2008. And to say I was lost is a little bit of an understatement. I drank for 6 months straight. I wasn't sober for 6 months. I mean, I didn't have a sober moment. And it wasn't the stuff I saw. I mean, we saw some bad stuff, there's no doubt about it, but I just didn't know how to, I had fallen into this role of being a sergeant in the Army, in the airborne infantry, and I was good at it, you know? I was really good at it. And I was good at what I did inside the Korengal Valley. I was a very trusted guy. I was, you know, top of the line. And, you know, fast forward, I'm out of the military now. I'm trying to look for a job. And I applied for a job at Walmart to clean floors in the middle of the night. And I got turned down for the job for whatever reason. And you got to understand what that does to a human being. It destroys something inside you, you know? So, you know, I'm trusted to lead men in combat, and now I'm not trusted to clean floors in the middle of the night. I would have done a damn good job, by the way.
Walmart, if you're listening.
You know, I'm going through everything I can. I'm drinking. I'm not drinking. I'm going to counseling. I'm not going to counseling. I'm trying everything I can to get my life back together. And so Chad gets a hold of me, and I can't even remember, 2009 or 2010? What
2010 maybe?
So yeah, and he's like, hey, I got this trip. You want to go on this trip? It's completely free. I'm like, you're going to try to convert me to something. I don't know what it is.
It worked, though.
There's something here that's going to happen. And, you know, he just kept persistent, like, listen, there's no clause here. We're not going to, it's not a cult. We're not going to convert you.
A little bit.
And I, you know, I finally took the chance to go out because he said, hey, we're going to get all the 173rd guys you serve with, and we're going to get you guys all out on the Colorado River. And we went out, and no, they didn't try to convert us. And it was just one of the most amazing experiences of my life. You know, there's a lot of, you know, counseling's great. The VA does its thing. It needs to happen. There's counseling that needs to happen. There's things that have to be worked out through those psychiatrists and psychologists and the way that you think and all this stuff like that. But, and there's counseling, group counseling inside of the VA even. But when you're out on the Colorado River and you're just hanging out and you're just going down the river and you're just able to be, just as you were in combat. And what I try to do in my personal life now, this is something that's happened because of Outward Bound, is I try to facilitate conversations that need to happen between veterans. And a lot of those conversations can't happen inside of clinical settings. They can't happen inside of a VA, inside of a white wall, like we're all sitting at a table and we're supposed to talk about the deepest, darkest things that happen to us, and it just doesn't happen. You can get close to it, but you're not going to get the connection that you need, that really the healing part of it. And so we were going down, so I went down the Colorado River with my best buddies, guys I serve with, and we're able to take care of each other, love each other, just like we did in combat, but we're not getting shot at. We're just there. We're just hanging out. And there's this one memory I have where I'm going down the Colorado River, and we did a night float. And I always, talk about how has this helped you? How has this affected your life? We went down on this night float, and now the water was it wasn't fast moving water, but it was fast enough if you got in trouble, if you weren't paying attention, and the guy up so you had 2 guys up the whole time, and everyone else was sleeping. So all the rafts were stuck together in this big triangle, and we're all tied together, and we're going down the river, and it's pitch dark because you're in canyons. And you see all the stars. I mean, I saw stars in Afghanistan. That was pretty. But here on this Colorado River, you're going down, and all the stars, the stars that you see, they're so bright. There's not a light 100, how many miles was it away from the nearest town? I can't even remember.
Well, it's 4 hours from Salt Lake City.
Yeah, it's 4 hours, right? So there's no lights at all. I mean, it's just pitch black, and you see every star, and you're in care with another guy to keep guys off the rocks. And there's a few memories in my life. I've had a lot of great memories, and that one's right up at the very top of the list because I'm caring for the guys I love. They're right below me. But we're not getting shot at. We're doing something really good. We're doing something that can build us up again. And that stuff it leaves a lasting impression. It changes your life. Those conversations that happened on that trip were amazing. I've gone on a few outward bound trips, so I can say that from a different experience, I've learned how to sail from outward bound, and now I own a sailboat. I'll be moving out on my sailboat this summer and living out there. I mean, it's impacted my entire life, outward bound, and in all the right ways. It didn't need to. It wasn't a forced thing. It wasn't. It was just what it needed to happen, and so that's what outward bound has done for me.
That is great. That's a great story. Thank you. So Jeremy, now to you, and I have to say I didn't have any trouble picking out who was the guy who participated in Heroes and Horses. So, after serving as both an airman and a soldier, you didn't have enough, so you did both services. How did you manage to connect with Heroes and Horses? And tell us a little bit about your story and what you took away from that experience.
Well, I got to tell you, I was at work one day, and I was flipping through my phone because my job is incredibly stressful, and it's not like combat stress, it's just office busy stress. And I was flipping through my phone on a break, and I came across an article on Nat Geo Adventure about another Heroes and Horses graduate, Ray Nell, who was riding his horse and taking some of his other horses and all of his tack to donate to Heroes and Horses. And I'm reading through it, and I'm thinking about where I was in my life at that moment. I was struggling in my job. I was struggling at home. I was struggling with a lot of loss, and really struggling just to identify what I was supposed to be. And what caught my eye was that you spend time in the woods. And my wife can attest to the fact that any chance I get, I spend in the woods. Every September, I spend as much time as I can elk hunting and chasing elk in the mountains of New Mexico. And so when I saw that, and I saw that I could do this all on horseback, I was like, okay. I mean, what do I got to lose? I mean, I could apply. They don't ever call back, so I could apply for it. At least I gave it a shot. And about a year ago, sometime in March, I got a call from Mike Riley, and he said, "Hey, are you still interested in going to?" I said, "Say what?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and so I accepted a slot in Heroes and Horses, and I just knowing that I had to make a change in my life, something needed to happen. And I needed to do something because the road I was going down, it wasn't horrible. I had been in some pretty dark places. I'd been down some pretty rough roads, but where I was going and the road I was on, it just wasn't the right road, and I was struggling a lot just to figure out who I was. And so I arrived in Montana, and you talk about stress inoculation. I remember very vividly going into the lodge and sitting there and looking around, and there was a ton of people with their eyes on me, like all you guys now. And I stood up and I turned to someone, I don't even know who it was, and I asked them, "Is it always going to be like this?" And they were like, "Yeah," and they just walked off. I was like, okay. But I knew I couldn't go back. I knew I couldn't turn back. I took on something that they asked me to do that I had applied to do, and they accepted me. And to quit wasn't even an option. Someone else missed out on this trip because I took a spot. And so there was no way I was going to back out of it. And it quickly went from there to a horse named Pam, who was just a huge motivating, coincidentally, the horse's owner's name was Pam. She's just an amazing lady, a great mentor. And it just, I could look back on the process. I could close my eyes right now, and I could, if I was a good artist, I would paint a picture of specific moments within the phases that significantly impacted me. One was we're traveling down a trail, and the horse I am on, Waverly, great horse, great.
Donated.
Waverly, I'm riding Waverly, and I'm ponying. I'm dragging behind me another horse. This is the first time I could really drag a horse behind me or pony another animal behind me, because Waverly was such a challenge. Wanted to run to the front. He wouldn't stay where I needed him to be, and I ended up somehow, some way, looking up at almost a cliff face and looking down at a river below, and the horse I was ponying is now facing me in front of me on a trail this wide. And so I realized that, as veterans, we are, from day one, from the day where we get to basic training, we're given responsibility, and we're given the ability to make difficult decisions. And somehow, some way, I can't tell you, I blacked out, but I made it, and I made it back, and the horse was behind me eventually. But I think it was that time when I realized that, I'm not broken. There's nothing broken about me. I've been told a lot that I have problems, and that I need to overcome this, and that I need to do that. But what I never did was take into consideration what I felt and what I knew I could do. And so what that did for me was put me in a position where my mind started working again. The ability to think about how I'm going to move forward wasn't just based on how do I avoid situations that make me incredibly uncomfortable, like sitting on a stage in front of all these people. This never would have happened a year ago. I'm completely honest with you. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have shown up. To how do I move forward, and how do I do something positive other than just living my life, going to work every day, coming home, watching the news, and trying to appease my wife by telling her, yeah, we'll go on vacation. That was a big driving force. Was my wife is an amazing woman. She loves to travel. She wants to see the world, and I wanted to sit at home. I was terrified of leaving the house, and so being able to now take in thought, take on new thoughts, and think about the future, and have drive, not just think about the future, but have drive to pursue it, and have ideas, and return to a life of service was something that was just festering in a good way inside of me, and to the point where I decided that after all was said and done, after the third phase, I spent a month with a horse trainer, Val Geisler, in Wyoming as an apprentice. And I learned to train horses. I was given an amazing opportunity. He calls me son. He's just an amazing man, and gave me a lot. And instead of taking that and using it to provide myself with something, I decided to use that and provide others with something. And I saw a huge gap You have people who donate horses like Waverly to a program with good intentions. They just want to help people. So here's a horse, he's a great horse. Yeah, well, Micah and Mike Riley and the folks at Heroes and Horses, they don't necessarily have the time to take on these horses and work with them. So I started my own nonprofit organization, Charlie 5 Incorporated. My sole mission is to take these horses that are being donated to equine-assisted therapy programs and train them, take on the training aspect of them, and return them to the programs at no cost. I don't want any money for it. I don't want anything other than just to feel good about taking the gift that I was given, because it really is a gift, taking the gift of opportunity I was given and pay it forward and make it and give someone else another opportunity.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. Really cool.